Do you want to become a badass agile coach? Yes, you can. Whether you are a Scrum Master on a journey to becoming an agile coach or already an agile coach, let us show you the tools to help you on that journey. Join my conversation with Bob Galen where we explore various topics. We talk about his recent book as well as all the different tools to help you become that badass agile coach. So let's join that conversation.
Nimesh. I'm Bob Galen. I'm an agile coach. A lot of people say they've been doing it for a long time. I think I can actually accurately say that. So I discovered agile in the mid 90s. I discovered Scrum when it was first introduced at a conference, and I started applying it. I was a leader, a technical leader, and I've been enamored with agile methods, coaching, leadership since then. So I focus most of my energy on coaching nowadays. I have an independent coaching practice. And that's enough about me.
So you just had a book published. So congratulations on that. I found the title for this book interesting. How do you define badass coaching?
So it's I struggled, Nimesh, with the title a little bit. So I had some co-authors, if you will, or contributors to the book. And then I had some people that I asked to do, for example, sketches for the book. So I had a small community of early reviewers and things. And then I have colleagues in my network. And early on, I wanted, so titles matter. So you need a catchy titles matter, whether we like it or not. So I was looking for a catchy title. And then I'd heard people talking about the term badass, like applied to different things, a badass BA, a business analyst, and badassery, so extending the notion. And I was intrigued, and I'm like, I think that might be a good title for coaching. Now, how I define it is with terms like courageous, audacious, energetic, bold, professional, continuous learning, sharpening their saw, using Stephen Covey terms like continuously sharpening their saw. So when I think of badass, I think in terms of someone who's not complacent, who's someone, to use a Star Trek metaphor, to boldly go where no coach has gone before. My backup term was well-rounded. I center the book on something called the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, which is a framework. And so I thought well-rounded would be a nice, pun or connection to that. But it didn't have the attitude that I was looking for, the positive attitude that badass does. So I really thought about it deeply. I was torn, but then I decided to stay with it. One of the things I say in the book, I don't think agile coaching is for the faint of heart.
Yes.
I think agile coaching is a really, really difficult, challenging role to be in, depending on where. It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the timid. If I can, it's a hard place to make a living. It's a very to me, it's a rewarding place to make a living, but it's not easy. So I wanted to align with that as well.
So if I pick up your book, how would it benefit me? Let's say I'm a Scrum Master and I'm looking to become an agile coach. How would it benefit me as the reader?
So I think one of the mistakes, it's sort of interesting when I don't know if I recall that it always happens when I've written a book before, but this time, the minute I hit release, maybe a week later, I start thinking about, oh gosh, darn it, I should have talked about this. And so one of the things that I'm currently struggling with mentally and figuring out, did I make a mistake or what do I do, is the audience. So the title looks like it's driven towards agile coaches. So if you're an agile coach, the book is for you. If you're not an agile coach, there might be a question, is there value for me? And in the introduction, I sort of say it, but you need to make it front and center on the title. And one of the mistakes I may have made is making it too narrow or appear too narrow. And the intent of the book is actually, and I have a talk that I've been giving at a few groups, like agile coaching skills are for everyone. So I really I have a view of the world where everyone, so forget agile coaching skills, developing your coaching skills, I think is something that every team member, every Scrum Master, every product owner, every leader, everyone in technical context could work on to improve their competency in their role. And I think the book would have value to everyone because I have a view of the world that everyone is a coach and everyone should be actively coaching other people. Even at a team member, forget Scrum Masters, even at a team member to team member level, if someone is struggling, I mean, they don't have to defer it. If I'm working with you on a team and we're having interactions or you're not performing or I'm not performing, we need to have the ability to coach each other as opposed to asking the Scrum Master to coach us or something like that. So I think what it has is coaching skills. I think the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel is a wonderful model to base your growth on, your self-development. And so I would encourage Scrum Masters, product owners to read the book and to self-reflect and then actually to look inside themselves and say, what areas am I curious about that I should develop in order for me to feel better about my performance in my role, to help me in my role, and then start developing that.
Great. One of my favorite book is, I don't remember exact title, but something to the note of coaching habit. I think it's coaching habits. I'm with you. When I look at coaching, the other skills that I often say is the facilitation, right? Whether you are a Scrum Master, product owner, or non-agilist, let's say, have nothing to do with agile, you can still benefit from the coaching skills. You can definitely benefit from facilitation skills. So these are some of the universal skills. Definitely, it will lift you in terms of your personal as well as professional aspect of your life.
I agree with you. I think if you're referring to it, I think the author is Michael Bungay-Stanier or something like that, and the coaching habit.
Yep.
And he has 7 questions in there.
Exactly.
So instead of having 8,000 powerful questions to choose from, he boils it down to a very useful set of 7 key questions. Now his target audience, I think, is more leaders, managers there. But again, it's a very general purpose skill set. And those are incredibly valuable, like a very simple but very powerful set of questions to have in your back pocket. I think the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel is a wonderful backdrop or a definition or a framework to define what coaching is. So in order for me to write the book, I have to see a problem area in my perspective, or an area that we're struggling in. For me, I have to write something that I'm passionate about and I want to help people. So in this area, the problem statement was, what is Agile coaching? And I don't think there's a clear definition in the world. And do clients know what it is? It's not just do the coaches know. So I think the coaches are confused sometimes. And I think the clients are certainly confused and the universe is confused. And so I was looking to sort of try to find a model that defined what that is. The other problem I saw is since it's ill-defined, everyone thinks they're an Agile coach. So there's everyone's an Agile coach because it's not a clear definition. So I don't want the bar to be low. I want the bar to be sort of higher in service to our clients. So if you remember, Lisa Atkins 10 years ago set the bar with what I think of as the X-Wing model for Agile coaching. But what I found is there were some gaps in the X-Wing model. Not that it was bad, but it lacked, for example, a consulting stance or a providing advisory stance. And I felt that was a real weakness in it. And since the model didn't say it, I think a lot of coaches felt like they couldn't provide advice. Right? They felt, I'm not an Agile coach if I provide advice. So I have to ask 1,000 questions instead of providing advice occasionally. So I was looking for a model, and the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel has been developed in the community. So for me, the primary stances are leading, advising, guiding learning, which is mentoring, and teaching, then facilitating, and then coaching, professional coaching. So there's 5 primary stances. So to me, as an agile coach, you at least need to be aware of those as your primary vehicles for coaching. The other part of it is having some skills to be able to, what I call, dance across those dances in service to your client, if that makes, like, you're not, I don't think you're serving your client if you're a one-trick pony. So, and I know, but if the only tool you have is professional coaching, I think you have to grow yourself as an agile coach so that you can feel comfortable and get skilled with advice and or facilitating and or teaching. So over time, you don't have to be perfect all the time, but you need a model to say this is what good looks like. And then the other part of the wheel is there's 3 other areas that are sort of generic purpose. One was in next week, Agile Lean Practitioner, and that's your agile skills bucket, your Kanban, your SAFe bucket. Then there's serving, the service mindset, so serving the team and the client, the business. And then there's a new one there called transforming, having change management skills, which hasn't always been emphasized. So being a change leader, having the ability to help a client scaling the organizational development skills. So there's 8 sort of areas in the wheel, and I like the balance of that. So to me, that if anyone wants to know what is agile coaching, I would love someone to walk them around the wheel. Now, the one thing that's missing, and then I'll shut up and let you react, but is in the middle of the wheel, the hub of the wheel is self-mastery. And I love that, which is, so before we start coaching everyone else, what are we doing to develop ourselves? So to me, one of the aspects of the book is coaching is an inside-out job, I think. At least I think so. Whereas it's really hard to coach people if you're not coachable. So if you're a coach, I want you to, the first question I think you should ask is not how good am I at coaching Nimesh, but am I coachable myself, right? Do I have a coach? Do I have a mentor? Am I self-aware? Am I developing myself? Do I have emotional intelligence? How am I developing me in order to become self-care is in self-mastery. Am I taking care of myself? Am I walking around the lake? Am I being balanced as a coach? Right. So that's in the middle of the wheel, and then we have these 8 stances around it. And I think the book is anchored lightly, well, not moderately anchored on that as a definition of what is agile coaching.
For me, the biggest aspect of being an agile coach is that mindset that I can continuously learn something new. I've been doing agile coaching for many years now, but still I'm continuously looking for those opportunities to learn. The other piece is a lot of people are kind of comfortable within their own comfort zone, whatever they are doing. I'm constantly exploring new areas, constantly experimenting. So that's how even this YouTube channel came into existence, right? I could have spent like months thinking about it, and planning it as to how do I grow it and all that. I just jumped in saying, hey, my primary goal is to share my knowledge, and this allows me to do it. And I don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Let's do it. That's basically it. Continuous learning, that mindset definitely will take you a long way. The other thing I often say is coaching is all about dancing in the moment. You can have a script, like you are going to talk to your client. Your client could be a team member, or your client could be a CEO or CIO of the company. And you definitely have kind of an outline as to how you want that conversation to go. What are the things you want to bring up and all that? But then you cannot just stick to it. You have to dance in the moment. Let the client drive it. That's other thing I say. And how do you do that? You cannot do that if you just want to talk, right? You have to be the recipient. You have to be able to listen. So for me, and this is probably because of my background and all that, I strongly believe that meditation helps you become a really good active listener. It gives you the skills that you need to stay in that moment. So when I'm coaching people, I bring that up, the meditation, not because of any religious connection. It will definitely make you a better person and as a professional also.
I mean, I took an ORSC coaching, so I align with you of continuous development. So a few years ago, I signed up for, and it wasn't cheap. So I spent a lot of money and took a lot of time to attend a series of So ORSC is a system level coaching. It's aligned with ICF, so it's a professional coaching. So I was working on my coaching stance, and it was a series of 5 classes and then a cohort. And they talk about dancing with your client, and that's a sense and response. So it's listening deeply and you're sensing, so you might probe. So I think of Kinevin, if you're familiar with Kinevin, or if anyone's familiar with Kinevin, think of it as like a sense and response model. As coaches, we're sensing, we might be asking a question, but then part of it is not just listening to the answer, but listening deeply to, the emotional field or body language. Say, did it land? Because we're in service to the client. It's not about us. We're in service. And then maybe we need to dance to another stance. Well, that sounded nice, doesn't it? So and just dance with our client. And I like that metaphor when I heard it. The other thing from an ICF perspective that they focus on, and I'm still grappling with this, is the importance of presence. Coaching presence, and that's really hard to define. You know this, Nimesh. Like what is part of it is being present, so staying in the moment with your client, but it's also what we bring. It's also the gravitas so part of presence is how your client perceives you. How are you showing up? One of the things that ORSC talks about is meta skills, which is when you prepare to meet a client, what mindset are you putting on? For example, a meta skill might be courageousness, or it might be I think I need to meet my client with courage, or I think I need to meet my client with playfulness, or I think I need to meet my client with curiosity. And so then you intentionally sort of put that on and say, so I'm being present, but how am I being present? And being intentional with it. And I'm not deciding that I'm going to be curious for me. I'm actually deciding that that's how my client may need me to show up in order to make this effective. So that sort of baseline stuff, if you will, is really important, I think, for coaching effectivity.
We talked about the stances a couple of times. You mentioned, I mentioned. So let's touch a little bit on that. Spend some time on it. What do you mean by these stances? And how can one improve on some of these stances? I don't think anybody is expert in all these stances, right? And the other piece is you are kind of shifting from one stance to other stance, even in single conversation.
So what I would do is I would actually highly recommend that everyone studies studies is too strong a term, but everyone reads the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. The Scrum Alliance just recently fostered a working group, a volunteer working group, and there's a page on the Scrum Alliance site that defines the wheel, but also has a personal assessment spreadsheet where you can assess your skills no matter what you are. You could be a coach, a Scrum Master, you could be just a person. You can assess yourself, and what it'll do is it'll give you insights into what the stances are. And, so for example, teaching is relatively self-evident. Advising, think of advising as consulting, so providing advice. You could think of it as being a consultant. So at a high level, that's self-evident, but what are the skill levels underneath that? So you can go to that site, or there's another, there's an open source place that defines the wheel called What is Agile Coaching, all one word. I think it's whatisagilecoaching.org. And you'll see the latest version of the wheel there. What differentiates the wheel, and this is really important, that the X-Wing never did. Descriptions of the growth wheel have 5 levels of mastery defined, so competency levels. So when I say go study it, what I'm actually saying is go understand it at a high level. But then, for example, over my shoulder is leading, is leading. So go understand what the leading stance looks like. What is it from a wheel point of view? And then go in, and the first competency level is beginner. So and the fifth competency level is catalyst, and practitioner is like number 2, and advanced practitioner is number 3. So with each level, it gives you guidance as to what would that look like. What would being a practitioner in the leading stance look like? What would being a catalyst look like? And you can start gaining a sense for what it is and where you are and how you might develop yourself to get better. And I love that competency part. That's one of the things that differentiates the wheel from other models, is by definition, it can help you grow. And remember, this is free, so there's no cost. This is just on the Alliance site. It's a reference. And that tool to assess yourself is there. So I would encourage everyone to do that. Now, related to that, I want to make another commercial statement, but again, it's free. Mark Summers is a coach in the UK who I met in his involvement in the Scrum Alliance sponsored Agile coaching community. And he was helping run some retreats. He still does that, the Scrum Alliance coaching retreats. And that's where the growth wheel, he influenced, not him himself, but he influenced volunteers to develop it over time. The first wheel was around 2016, 17, and it's evolved since then. So I reached out to Mark. He was a co-contributor of the book. But he and I also approached a company called Comparative Agility. And Comparative Agility does maturity surveys or assessment tools. It's a platform for different assessments. They have a partnership with the Scrum Alliance. So if you're a Scrum Alliance Scrum Master or product owner, you actually have a free license to assess your maturity skills in their assessment tools for Scrum Mastery and product owner. So Mark and I approached them, and we developed a wheel-based, what Comparative Agility calls it, is it's a PI tool. So it's not an assessment in their traditional sense. It's a personal improvement tool, so the data is not shared. It's private data. It's for you. So the assessment tools are aggregated, and it's comparative. The PI tools are purely for you. The Scrum Alliance, Scrum Master, and Product Owner are PI tools, and we added an Agile coaching tool based on the wheel. So you can go out there. It's free. You can take it, and you can get this wonderful radar chart of where am I. Now here's the extra value. Mark and I spent hours and hours adding resources to develop yourself to the dashboard. So if you say, I want to develop in leading, it'll assess where you're at. Nimesh, you're a 2.3 in leading, whatever that means. And then you can, if you're curious, you can say, how do I get better? Right. And it'll give you some advice as to articles, videos, books, PDFs, to how to develop your skills. So now our vision is there's this free resource that provides an assessment, and you can reassess. And so your development journey, you can guide your growth journey right from that dashboard. And Mark and I, we're excited that it's out there as a free resource. You know, for those 8 billion coaches, everyone's an Agile coach. We're hoping that they actually start taking personal growth seriously. And so without us getting, I think that there's tools out there that you can assess that stuff. The PI tools are not for other people. They're just for you. Yep. Right. So if you call it an assessment or a review, now there is a tool that you can invite a coach. So someone could invite me, so they could take the PI assessment. And I like this, but it's up to them. And they could invite me or you as a coach to come in and look at their data if we were actively coaching them. And we could see where are they so that we can help them grow. But it's really it's not that comparative. I don't want to compare anyone to anyone else. I didn't even want to go there. But I hope, remember, self-mastery in the middle, I'm hoping that people are curious about themselves and want to grow themselves. And so the tool, if you are, then it provides a vehicle to do that.
Any other tools, tips, techniques that you want to share with the community as far as the agile coaching from your book?
Again, and I don't want it to appear like I'm selling the book, but
No.
there's three. But Mark actually did a really nice job of not even coaching stories, but there's probably what, one, two, three, four. There's 5 chapters that have coaching scenarios end to end, like long-term, multi-day, multi-week, multi-scenario group individual coaching scenarios in like a dialogue format. And what we wanted to do is show what coaching looked like. We wanted to provide practical, not in a, I mean, of course it's a simulation, but this is from our real world experience. What's nice is you get different styles. You not only get Mark's stories and his style, but you get Jennifer's story and her style. And we didn't normalize them. Their styles come through, and what they're doing is sharing their techniques for coaching. I think it's the only book that I've seen that really provides that level of flow content, because like, what does it look like is something a lot of people struggle with. Like, what does, and not just a coaching session, but the bouncing ball of coaching across multiple, like over time. So that's one thing that's a distinction, I think. The other thing we focused on is a lot of canvases, Nimesh. So there's a self-care canvas in there, a coaching self-care canvas. There's a prepare for your coaching day. I think coaches don't plan. This is going to sound odd coming from an agile coach, but I don't think coaches plan their sessions. And back to your metaphor, plan your dance card. Yes, we're going to dance with the client, but how do they need us to show up initially? Take a few minutes to plan your, sort of your meta skills, etc., instead of just diving in and coaching and then diving out. So we talk about entering coaching and being thoughtful, and there's a canvas for that. We talk about exiting coaching and reflecting on what just happened and doing reflection. There's a lot of emphasis on reflection time. So part of self-mastery is sort of put this notion of retrospective on steroids and apply it to ourselves. So are we becoming reflection artists is something there. So the canvases, I think, could be useful for folk. That's why we put them in there. The emphasis on planning, I think, could be useful for folks. The mindset emphasis. There's a chapter on coaching leadership. A lot of people struggle coaching, not you, not me. Yes, but coaching up. So we talk about coaching up, etc. So I think the book is trying to be well-rounded. Back to a question you asked, what could the Scrum Master? My hope is a junior Scrum Master would get some coaching help from it. A junior coach or an inexperienced coach would find value in it. My hope is an experienced coach would have value in it as well, different value propositions. The hope is that everyone, and that's the feedback we've gotten, that people get, a leader could get valuable feedback from it and valuable advice from it. So I think it is multifaceted, independent of your coaching skills, that you'll get different value propositions from it. But the canvases are a big deal. The coaching wheel is a really big deal. The other thing we talk about is we emphasize a lot is the arc of a coaching conversation, and really try to land arcs and thinking about arcs and connecting arcs and beginning. I like a chess metaphor for it, like opening moves, middle game, and end game, and thinking about it in that way. So that's another useful, trying to provide useful metaphors, like dancing with your client and coaching arcs and things. So I think that's the high points.
One advice you would give to a budding agile coach.
And we've done it. I'm just going to repeat it. I think don't worry about coaching. Coach you. So it's an inside out job, whether you like it or not. If your goal is to just call yourself a coach, then I don't care what you do. But if your goal is to become a skilled professional agile coach and really invest in yourself and go down a journey, then the first thing, and this could be someone with 10 years of agile coaching experience, if they haven't realized this, then realize that it's an inside out job, and think about and go to self-mastery and think about emotional intelligence and think about your coachability and think about how have you developed and reflect on your successes and your failures. Back to Nimesh, what you were saying, it's really centered, focus on your presence, focus on your self-care. What are you doing? Role modeling is something I didn't bring up. I think coaches need to walk their talk. And self-mastery is so let's focus on ourselves. And that may be counterintuitive to people who are viewing this, but I mean it. That's the one thing is go inside before you go outside. You'll see a difference. Well, it's available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback.
Right.
It's also available on LeanPub, which is another distribution for e-versions. So there's PDF. So if you're looking for multiple e-versions, Kindle, Amazon, Apple, and PDF, then LeanPub is a place to find it. And I think it's a little cheaper there. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. So I want to thank you for that. And I hope we do it again sometime, okay?
Yep, definitely. There you have it, my friends. As you can see, there are many free tools available to help you become effective and impactful agile coach. All I'm looking for is that passion and start with that self-assessment. As Bob mentioned, even agile coaches need coaching and mentoring. Reach out to me if you are serious about becoming that badass agile coach.